question.
Hey everyone. I did something really stupid and I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I got a new computer set up. If y'all can't hear me, let me know. Okay. So I got a new computer set up. Like we built a gaming computer for me and I don't have speakers. Okay, Jody, thank you for coming at least and hanging out even while you're getting stuff done. Hopefully, I can keep you busy. So, I don't have speakers, so I can't hear myself, which is really strange. I'm used to hearing myself and hearing when I'm playing and stuff, so I'm probably going to ask you guys like a million times, can you hear the sound and this and that? And next time I go live, I will be more prepared and have sound. I'm just gonna have to wing it. Hopefully, I am so hiding Bam. No, I've been hearing everyone talking about Bam, that he beat up his brother or something. My goodness. Thanks, butterfly kisses. So, if you guys haven't watched, I went ghost hunting on Friday, and it was so much fun. It was totally different than anything I've ever did before, but I loved it. Okay, good. I'm glad I sound fine. Thanks, Glenjamin. All right, I'm still trying to figure out like what screen I'm gonna use and things like that. I think I did see you in there. Hey, Debbie Flores, but I was like so into it. I was like trying to. It was so cool. Like we had we had a historian that took us on a tour of Penhurst. It's called Penhurst Asylum by like everyone around here, but really it was called Penhurst State School. It was a school for people who had disabilities like Down syndrome, autism, school for people with, oh my gosh, cerebral palsy, things like that. But it felt like you were there. Well, good. I'm glad that it was good. I never went live straight from YouTube before, so it was definitely something new for me. But they told us about eugenics. If you don't know what eugenics is, it's basically like they wanted to eliminate people with disabilities from the gene pool, kind of like Hitler and you know the Holocaust, and that's why they sent all like disabled kids to a state school, and you really didn't have a lot of you know, like what do you call it, things to help you take care of your children back then. Like you didn't have any help doing it on your own, so a lot of people resorted to that. And sorry if my camera's like going in and out too. Everything, my whole setup is new, so I'm struggling. And I'm looking up because I'm looking up at my monitor so I can see everything. So if I'm not looking straight ahead, that's why. But yeah, we went around. They gave us ghost hunting equipment. I had a spirit box myself, but we had like a REM pod, cat balls, spirit box, dowsing rods, which were so cool. I've never tried dowsing rods before, so I really loved messing with them. And it was cool because you could ask questions like when they cross, it meant yes, and when they were separated, it meant no. And sometimes it would just cross a little bit, and other times it would be like go like this. And the one time I was like, "Can you touch the wall?" And Dave's sister was like leaning up against the wall, and it went like, "Oh," and hit it. We were so freaked out. Oh, I got an itch. And it was just so fun. We like the guide took us to all the buildings, and we got an hour in each building. And yeah, they did. So they said that they separated the people with disabilities in categories. It was idiot, imbecile, and moron. The worst being idiot, the second worst being imbecile, and the highest intelligent being moron. And if you were considered an idiot, you weren't able to go to school or anything, but if you were considered a moron, you could. But the difference was, is say someone with cerebral palsy went in who couldn't talk or had the ability to write, but they were very sound of mind, because as cerebral palsy is a muscle disease, but it doesn't stop your thinking. Well, they would be considered um, the lowest in the scale and wouldn't be able to go to school and things like that. So it was really sad. Hold on. My camera's like super bright. I don't know. Maybe it's just let me change my screen. All right, that's a little better. uh, Dave has like my screen set up for gaming. So it's like super bright. So it makes me look weird when it's not really me looking weird. All right, so I'm gonna go over. Oh, I gotta show you guys the pictures. Maybe I'll just do a live, like a quick, or like make like a little slideshow of the pictures from there, or I can show them at the end if it doesn't go too long. But I wanted to do like a little recap of the trial for Monday and Tuesday so far, and then I was going to talk about Dorothy. Thank you, Lori. I haven't been on camera in a while. It feels weird. I'm going to talk about Dr. Dorothy Lewis, who, if you have been following my channel for a while, you most likely heard me mention her before. I just love this documentary that she was in. She's going to be Letecia's like star witness, and she is a very smart and well-respected lady. And I got like a little nervous when I found that out, because she would be a good witness for her. So I am very anxious to see her take the stand, honestly, just because I know a lot about her. So I figured I'll talk about her too, because she is very interesting. I put it this way. I think the age-old question is, why do people kill? Why does what seems like a normal person just snap one day and kill somebody? And she has went out on a mission to try and figure out the reasoning for that. Sorry. And she's done a good job unearthing reasons why people do that. And it's the first time I've seen anyone really have a good explanation for why people snap and kill people. And so I wonder if, I doubt she'll take the stand. I doubt it, but who knows? Knowing her, she's very, let me turn my phone off. She's very impulsive, so I guess we'll see. I would love to hear what she has to say too, but I don't think she will. All right, so yesterday we started off with Agent Grusing on the stand. He is a specialist in violent crimes, like a I think he was the one who he's a special agent that specializes in violent crimes, and he was interviewing Letecia at the Myrtle Beach Police Department. Oh, you're not late, Linda. I just started. I was just talking about Pennhurst in the beginning. So I haven't even gotten started with the trial stuff yet. Yeah, she is a she might because she is a narcissist. That's a good point. She might because she thinks she's a know-it-all. You know what I mean? All right, so he testified that Letecia would challenge him on knowing statements about where Gannon was. He said if he wasn't correct with guesses about what happened to Gannon, Letecia would get upset. So when interviewing her, he had to do a little like, when you try and get something out of your kid, but you have to word stuff a certain way and stuff like that to get them to talk to you, kind of like that. He had to treat her with like kid gloves and like ask certain questions to get her to open up and things like that. And if he wasn't able to guess what like correct statements on where Gannon was, she would get upset. He said it was an effective way for her not to answer questions. Sorry, hold on a second. Sorry. I'm having I have the worst spring allergies. I mean, they're not too bad right now, but I am getting a little itchy. My throat's itchy. Sorry. So anyway, he said she was reluctant to answer questions and didn't give him any clues to help find Gannon. I mean, we know how difficult she was about everything, making up a billion stories. You could hear her in the phone call. Hey, Kayla. In the phone calls with Al, it was pulling teeth. And you know what? All I could think of is during those conversations with Al is I have to give him a lot of credit for that because I'm sure once she made up the second story that she came up with, he was pretty sure that she had done something to his child. And at that moment, if it were me, I would just go want to beat the crap out of her until she told me the truth. You know what I mean? I would be like, let me go handle this myself, but he knew that he had to act a certain way with her to get information from her. So I think he thought if he didn't act a certain way, he would never see his son again. So he did his best to try and get answers from her, but it had to be incredibly difficult for him to have to deal with her and know that she probably did something. You know what I mean? I would be ready to go rip her head off if I was him. Yeah, a pregnant lady with a tummy full of cash. And then she would get mad. Yeah, he had to play her game. And then she would get mad if he started being sarcastic, come on, I know this is bullshit type deal. And then she would be like, why aren't you taking this seriously? She was like, ugh, she's terrible. She is seriously the worst pain in the behind ever. So he discusses different tactics that he used, including asking questions about the blood in Gannon's room. Since she's not pushing it to anybody else, she's basically saying it was her, Grusing said. We did find out that she Googled, I hate my stepson, and she Googled something about blood squirting out of like a artery. Like she Googled something about blood squirting out of an artery, which was very disturbing to me. She was talking about God during parts of her interview, saying the truth will come out one day and show the entire world, which she was saying that to everybody. Uh, Sorry, I was reading the chat. He questioned Letecia, asking if she didn't hurt him. Why would it be a problem for her to tell him what her last memory and image of Gannon was? If she's saying she's innocent of this, then the questions that I'm asking should be easy for her to answer. Grusing was heard asking questions over and over about Letecia's last image of Gannon. Letecia said she saw nothing negative. Gannon was happy. Gannon is my favorite stepchild. My baby, said Letecia. She never fully answered what her last memory of Gannon was. The interview ends and Letecia and Grusing walk out of the room. He testified saying right outside the door, she said something in a small voice about North Carolina that I couldn't hear. She said, and I should go to North Carolina. And I asked if Gannon was in North Carolina, and she didn't answer. He testified saying Letecia knew where different lines of questioning would go and what would be damaging for her to answer truthfully. His testimony ended by acknowledging Letecia never changed personalities, talked in a Spanish accent, or wanted to be called other names. So again, we have somebody else who didn't see any strange acting from her at all. Yeah. Yep, it's scary, Kayla, And if you ever see anybody with red flags around your kids, pay more attention to that stuff. Like, I know I think a lot of people will look the other way, but I definitely think there were some like red flags with Letecia for sure. And had they been taken more seriously, then maybe something could have been different. So next they cross Grusing. Will Cook, Letecia's attorney, asked about Letecia referring to herself in the third person. He said this was not unusual or odd to him. During cross, Grusing was also asked how many stories Letecia told about Gannon's disappearance. He said there are about 5 to 10 different stories. So it sounds like maybe they're going the route that because she told 5 different stories, 5 to 10 per se, that maybe each personality was a different story. Now, I don't know if that's what they're going, but that's what it sounds like he's trying to imply. Oh yeah, she's a total red flag. Yeah, I agree. I think he had to definitely see some red flags in her for sure. Like her faking the house being robbed and the harassment claims in Alaska. She made a bomb threat at the one school she worked at. All right, so she worked at this school, right? She worked there for a few days before she just left and got another job. Well, the Board of Education was pissed and they were going to take her license away because of it. So she made a claim that she left that job because she was being harassed because the superintendent was Landon's uncle. And they investigated it and they found no proof of that. Oh yeah. This came out like a while ago. Hold on one second, guys. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. But yeah, so I think this was still in North Carolina. Yeah, it was. And she was with Al at the time. And I guess it was like shortly after her and Al got together. And she got a job. I see you, tit for tatters. I get that old book, Rippies, believe it or not, right? So, she got a job at a school in North Carolina, and Landon's uncle was the superintendent there. And because she found a better job, she just left school 2 days. And so she didn't lose her license. She lied and said that she was being harassed because Landon's uncle was the superintendent, which was a total lie. And they investigated the claims and they were unsubstantiated. She also made a bomb threat before. She was a mess. Like, she did a lot of really strange things. And she has a lot of assault charges on her record. So she was, this isn't something that's new, I guess, to her. She seems like she has a violent tendency to her. And she's a little bit, cuckoo. I mean, a lot of it cuckoo. Have you seen these hairstyles that she's wearing? Oh my gosh. I was thinking about doing my hair and like the side bun up top to be funny, but I didn't because I was like, it just looks so ridiculous. How? Oh yeah, she called him for work. All right, so that's a true story. That her stepfather died, but like 10 years earlier. It wasn't that day. And he did get hit by a car, but that didn't happen on that day. All right, so let me see. Where was I? Okay, so then Grusing said her not being able to articulate the last image of Gannon was very indicative that the last image was awful. I came away with more of a certainty that something bad had happened to Gannon. They took a break, and then Michael Allen said they have 7 more witnesses before they're done presenting their case. Then the defense will take over. So we're getting there. And soon they're going to have star witness Dorothy Lewis. And I am so hyped for her. I'm just so curious how much she's got involved with this, because I really like her. And I'm really disappointed that she's testifying for her. But good question, Jody. I don't know, but she has a lot of simple assault charges. But that's a good question. Because, well, she does lie a lot on her resumes. She probably put a different last name because as Letecia Hunt, when she was married to Chance, she has a lot of assault charges with that last name. So she probably put Letecia, what's their Locklear? She probably put Letecia Locklear or Letecia Stauch when she applied for these positions. But her other name, if you look up Letecia Hunt, she's got a bunch of assault charges. So that's the only thing I can really think of. So that the defense will be calling their witnesses to the stand late this week. Five years of prosecutors. I only seen the witnesses for the prosecutors. I haven't seen any witnesses, like a witness list for the defense yet. Yeah, hold on, let me keep going. Sherry Holes, a forensic serologist. I don't know. What is a serologist? Hold on. Let me look it up because I've never heard of that. A serologist is a scientific study or scientific examination of blood serum, especially with regard to the response of the human immune system to pathogens or introduced substances. So, hey, Aussie True Crime. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Risk. She testified saying a piece of carpet, electrical cover, scrub brush, empty vinegar bottle, Amazon box, and a shoe believed to be Letecia's all tested positive for presumptive evidence of blood. She said the shoes had a strong cleaning odor. She said the pink suitcase with a blue blanket inside. Pink? I thought it was green. Also tested positive for blood. Fingernails from Gannon Stauch also tested positive for presumptive evidence of blood. The next witness was, all right, so that's 6. Now we're at witness 5. Donna Minogue developed a DNA profile from Gannon Stauch's toothbrush. She testified saying the carpet, outlet cover, electrical socket, scrub brush, Gannon's bed, pink suitcase, blanket from suitcase, and the Nike shoe that all tested positive for evidence of blood all matched Gannon's profile. The Amazon box and the vinegar bottle matched his profile as well. But yeah, if you guys haven't watched the interview between Grusing and Letecia, that was pretty interesting. I would check that out. I thought it was interesting, and the phone calls between her and Al are just insane. And I have to give it to him, because if I knew somebody was lying to me about my missing child who was probably dead, I would have a very hard time not going to try and hurt them very bad myself. I'm wording that nicely. Like, I'm wording that extra nicely because I want to say something a lot worse than that, but it's probably not meant for YouTube. But I would have a very hard time knowing that the person is lying to me about my child missing and telling me these insane stories. I would lose my ever loving shit. So Al did a very good job playing her game, and I feel bad that he even had to do that, because I would be disgusted. I can't even. Oh, I would go pick her up and tie her up and duct tape her to a one of them things, that you wheel beer in. Show me now, or you stay here, or worse than that. I don't know. I would not be able to handle it. Hell no. And he knows how she was and is, so. Because she's evil. She's straight up evil, in my opinion. She Googled, I don't like my stepson. And I think she didn't like him because he loved his mom and didn't love her, like he still, which any kid is going to do, even if you don't like their parent is not a great parent, you're still going to love your mother, and you're still going to, and I think that drove her crazy. And I feel like maybe she was able to connect with Lena a little more because she had a daughter of her own, but not Gannon. And I think she had a very deep-rooted hatred for Landon, And I think that deep-rooted hatred she took out on Gannon because Gannon was Mama's boy. I think she wanted him to go to therapy to like make him not a Mama's boy. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. Yeah, it's weird. Like why do you Google I don't like my stepson? I guess she was trying to find stories of people who felt the same way. I don't know. Yeah. Yep, Kayla, exactly. Couldn't have said it better. All right, so then let me see. I guess this morning, who was the first this morning? I think the first this morning was Kevin Hoyland, who was assigned to the cellular analysis survey team. He analyzed data on 4 cell phones, including Letecia's 2 phones, Gannon's Stack phone, and Harley Hunt's phone. He's showing and describing the analysis of all 4 cell devices on January 26th, the day before Gannon's disappearance, and on January 27th, the day of Gannon's disappearance, and the day after. This also includes data from the Life 360 tracking app and Letecia's vehicle. Yeah, I've Googled some weird stuff too. Oh, it's Buster, it is horrifying. It is like the most horrifying case. It happened right around COVID. It's just a sad case. The stepmom is just an evil, evil woman, and she did not like her stepson, and she snapped and she killed him in the most gruesome way. And now she is claiming insanity. And she has a very good star witness, which worries me a lot. But I still don't think that she will get away with that. I mean, they do have a great witness. The star witness they have is an excellent doctor, but I still don't think she's gonna help her. Yeah, it's always awful when a child is between this and Lori Vallow. It's like 2 evil mothers and children. Oh, and the West Boys. There's 3 cases going now, trials going on now, all involving children, and it's just horrible. And by the way, I saw Earl on the trampoline today. I was so happy for him. So, Buster's brother Earl is a very shy African gray. He's got these little club feet, and he like lives in he doesn't live in the drawer, but like meaning he loves his drawer and he hangs out in his drawer all day. And he's coming out of his shell, and he went and jumped on the trampoline today, and it was so cute. I love Earl. You got to think that she was pretty calculated. Oh yeah, she was way calculated, but he was brave. He walked right out. I was shocked. He went like jumped right out, and Buster was cheering him on too. How cute was that? He was like, "Hey, Earl." Yeah, I love. My husband keeps giving me bulldogs. I had a cockatiel. Well, I had a parakeet that I taught to talk. It would go, pretty girl, and like, and then I got a cockatiel right when Chris Farley died, and it was a little baby, and it like followed me around everywhere. I thought I was like its mom. At night, it would escape the cage and climb up the steps and like sleep in this little like bar that was under the stool that I had next to my bed. I'll take your ducks. I'll have them all. I love. Don't nobody offer me any animals because I'll take them in, especially broken ones. I have 9 bearded dragons, 3 snakes, a monitor. I specifically taken reptiles, but I will take in anything, to be honest. You can have 3 of them, but one of them is my baby, and she's straight. Yeah. And so I used to wait in the window. Yes. No, it's okay. I like going off on my little tangents. we do have to do a video. I've been like so busy because I went ghost hunting but maybe we can do it Saturday. I'll text you. I have your number. We'll figure it out because I'm not busy this week, luckily. I was super busy last week. But yeah, we're gonna do a video on exotics, but I'm gonna go like the reptile side and she's gonna go the bird side because I feel like reptiles and birds kind of have the same type deal where like you need to do research before you get them. And people so sorry, Dave is downloading something and it made my thing go off for a second. But people don't do research and impulse buy pets. So I wanted to do like a live teaching about the good and the bad things of exotics and, to do your research and stuff. But I think both make great pets. I think people just need to do more research. So I really wanted to do, like a collab with Buster's mom. Yes, all very relevant. But yeah. So anyway, I love this cockatiel. It was like my baby and my mom. We were painting. It was summertime, and my mom put the cage like right outside the door because the fumes were really bad and didn't want to like bother the bird. And then a cat came and opened the cage. And I heard it, and I came outside just to see the cat chasing my bird who had its wings clipped at the time down the street. And I don't know what happened because I didn't actually see the cat get the bird, but I can, I looked for that bird. When I tell you, I was like 10 and I searched the streets for that bird for weeks. And I don't know if the cat got it or not, but I was hoping that it got away. And man, I looked for that bird forever and couldn't find it. So I think that the cat got it, but it was traumatizing and horrible. And yeah, my neighbor had a bunch of like cats that lived outside, and yeah, it just came up. But I've always loved birds since then. So I watch all the birds on TikTok and YouTube. And that's and Buster's mom likes true crime, so it just works. But anyways, where was I? Hoyland. Okay. So the analysis corroborates what already been testified, including Letecia and Gannon going to Garden of the Gods on January 28th, which we know because there's pictures of them at Garden of the Gods. Letecia and Gannon going to Petco on January 27th, which I'm still dying to know what happened with Petco, whatever. Hey, Parker, what's up? I feel like she may have given him hydrocodone that morning, hoping that he would pass in the car, and drove all over the city. And she went in Petco, he stayed in the car, and she was in the window, looking out the window, checking over and over again, like she was waiting for something to happen. And she was out all day, and it seemed like nothing happened. So she panicked, knew the girls were coming home, and she couldn't have Gannon come home in that condition and let them see him like that. So she panicked and killed him. That's what I think happened. That's just my interpretation of it, because the way she kept saying that, talking about the bath salts, like trying to imply maybe he poisoned himself with bath salts or something. I don't know, but she used that bath salts thing so much. She shared it everywhere. It became such a thing that I felt like she was using it to cover something up. And I'm thinking that it was used to cover up the hydrocodone story. So, and it also corroborated that Harley was at work at this time. Maybe K-Braze. I think this is what I think. I think she wanted him to die from an OD and say that he ingested bath salts or something. And then I think she wanted to either take him to the hospital too late or dump his body before the girls got home, and then got home and was like, oh, Gannon's missing, But I don't think her story went that way. I don't think her story panned out the way she thought it was going to. And then she was like, oh my God, if the girls come home and see him in this condition, they're going to know I did something to him. And she rushed home and did it because she waited very late, like right before Elena was coming home from school to do that. So that's just what I think. I think she had other plans and they went terribly wrong. They had Dr. Teal's bathtub salts, but not like actual like drug bath salts, if that makes sense. But yeah, or that too, Lori. But she kept saying to Al that Gannon had this friend who they never heard of before. He was just this non-existent friend, and that Gannon was saying that the kid told him to bring bath salts to his house or he couldn't come over. And that he asked her what bath salts were. Yeah, one of Al's prescriptions, hydrocodone, which is for a child, is a very strong narcotic. It's probably on the a lower end narcotic for adults, but for a child, that's very strong. And no child should ever be taking hydrocodone, even in cough. They do have cough syrup with it in there, but they wouldn't prescribe that to a child. Yeah. And that night, so she had to have done something to him that night too, in my opinion, because she made Harley go down to his bedroom the night before and say goodnight to him, which was really strange because Harley had never done that before. Like, she never asked Harley to do that. So I think she wanted Harley to see him there at the time, safe for an excuse, So he said the phone calls and text messages from Letecia's device on the evening of January 27th included calls to 911. Letecia going to the airport to pick up Al the morning of January 28th, a stop at Starbucks around 1:30 in the afternoon for an interview with the sheriff's office. Letecia going back to the Stauch home late January 28th in the early hour of January 29th. Letecia going to the sheriff's office on the afternoon of January 29th, where her car and phone were seized. And that's when she showed up and the car was wet because she had cleaned it because she knew they were going to take her car. Yeah, I think so too, Thumb Thug. I think she was using bath salts to cover for the drugs in his system. I agree. It corroborated that Letecia rented a cargo van in Colorado Springs, which had a tracker on it. Then going to Walmart in Trinidad and buying a new phone on February 1st. Her driving through Texas in the southern part of the country in a rented cargo van through February 4th, about a week after Gannon was reported missing. She then traveled north from Florida, then going towards Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. In total, this was about 5 days of travel from Colorado Springs to South Carolina with stops along the way. On the evening of January 27th, around 7:30, Gannon's phone placed 2 outgoing calls. Agent Hoyland said it's likely that Gannon did not place those phone calls because at that point, Letecia had reported him missing. Late morning, near noon on January 28th, Letecia's device was used for phone calls and text messages near French Elementary, where she told Al her car was allegedly parked. Around 8 p.m. on January 28th, Letecia's vehicle was in the area of Palmer Lake, where the blood-stained board was recovered, which I think she used that particle board to move the suitcase because it was probably very heavy. Agent Hoyland, well, we know it was heavy because her brother said she could barely hold it and she wouldn't let him help her move it. He said this was the first trip to the area and Letecia's phone was disconnected from the network, which means it was intentionally placed on airplane mode or turned off. On January 29th, before Letecia's interview at the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, her vehicle went to a nearby car wash for about 5 to 6 minutes. February 1st, after Letecia bought a new phone at Walmart and made several calls using *67. Who uses *67 anymore? Remember *69 too? Wasn't *69 where you can listen, like figure out who was the last time you called? Agent Hoyland said this blocks caller ID and requires a conscious effort by whoever is using that device. On February 4th, around 4:15 a.m., the cargo van that Letecia rented was powered up less than 2 miles away from where Gannon's body was recovered. Your grandson is 9, and there's no way I could pick him up. I mean, I can pick up my son. He's 7, but I would struggle for sure. My son's he's on the smaller side, like me. He's little. On February 4th, around 4:15, the cargo van that Letecia rented was powered up less than 2 miles away from where Gannon's body was recovered in Pensacola, Florida. Around noon, Letecia's device and cargo van were leaving Pensacola. The next witness, so I think we're at 4 left here, to be called was Dr. Christine Moore. She's the first mental health professional to testify in the Letecia Stauch murder trial. In March 2020, Dr. Moore was the mental health director at El Paso County Jail. On March 5th, she did an assessment on Letecia Stauch. She remembered Letecia being calm and polite throughout their conversations. She said, given the nature of the crime and Letecia not having any criminal history, which she does. So I don't know why. I mean, she has assault charges under Letecia Hunt, unless it's a different person, but I'm pretty sure it's her. Jail can be traumatic and scary, and she wanted to make sure Letecia was safe and stable. She also has a bomb threat on her thing too. Dr. Moore said Letecia told her about being diagnosed with anxiety and having general symptoms. Dr. Moore said Letecia denied having any disorders, inpatient or outpatient treatment, and also denied any past suicide attempts. I should have said unaliving. Damn it. What? Oh, about the suitcase? So he said that she wanted to separate ways with the family and go to Florida, and they were going to South Carolina. So her Aunt Brenda was like, well, then you need to rent your own truck. You ain't taking mine that I rented, which I don't blame her. And at that point, I'd be side-eyeing her a little bit and wouldn't want her taking anything that, I paid for. So Letecia rented her own van, and they transferred all the stuff into the other van. And while she was transferring the stuff, she grabbed that big green suitcase and was trying to get it in her own van. And her brother offered to help her move it because she was struggling, and she told him no. And then he asked what was in there, and she said softball stuff. And then he said he had a bad feeling about that suitcase. He just had a feeling that something was up with that suitcase. Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess adrenaline really does crazy things. You can be, you can figure out how to pick stuff up, but I don't know. That's a good question, how she got it over the guardrail. She said Letecia was placed on unaliving watch because of the alleged crime and her first time being in jail, and Letecia didn't agree with that. When asked if Dr. Moore decided Letecia had any mental health issues, she said, not anything overt. She said Letecia was anxious and nervous, which seemed consistent with her self-report of anxiety. she said that she told jurors Stauch's behavior was consistent with someone exaggerating or making up mental health symptoms to try and avoid charges in the case. She said during her initial assessment, Stauch said she had anxiety, but she denied having any disorders. The two met dozens of times after that, and Dr. Moore said a few months after their initial meeting, Stauch began raising concerns about her competency and anxiety getting worse. Later that year, Dr. Moore reported Stauch talking about seeing demons in court and hallucinating. She said Stauch then reported being bipolar, having multiple personalities, and PTSD. Dr. Moore said this was inconsistent with her first contact with Ms. Stauch. Fast forward, during trial, Stauch's attorney are arguing that Stauch has DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. At the end of her testimony, Dr. Moore said she believed Stauch's behavior was consistent with someone acting out and making up symptoms to dissolve charges instead of it being a true diagnosis. During cross, Stauch's lawyer asked about people being uncomfortable opening up in jail setting about their mental health. He also asked about DID, only showing symptoms a small percent of the time. He then asked about ruling out DID so quickly. We're still expected to hear from doctors on both sides who perform sanity evaluations on Letecia Stauch, which is happening this week. So, sorry, hold on. That's pretty crazy that she was kind of like making stuff up, you know what I mean? You want me to I'm going to just talk about dissociative identity disorder real quick so we have an idea. So people have more of an idea of what it is. Yeah, evil needs to be recognized as a diagnosis for sure. So it involves experiencing a disconnection and lack of continuity between thoughts, memories, surroundings, actions, and identity. People with dissociative disorders escape reality in ways that are involuntary and unhealthy and cause problems with functioning in everyday life. Dissociative disorders usually develop as a reaction to trauma and help keep difficult memories at bay. Symptoms ranging from amnesia to alternate identities depend in part on type of the DID disorder you have. Times of stress can temporarily worsen symptoms, making them more obvious. Treatment for disorders may include talk therapy and medication. Although treating dissociative disorders can be difficult, many people learn new ways of coping and living healthy lives. So the symptoms are memory loss of certain time periods, events, people, and personal information. A sense of being detached from yourself or emotions, a perception of people and things around you as distorted and unreal, a blurred sense of identity, significant stress or problems in your relationships, work, or important areas of your life, inability to cope well with emotional or professional stress, mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and unaliving thoughts and behaviors. The main symptom is dissociative amnesia, where you have memory loss so severe, more severe than normal forgetfulness, and can't be explained by any medical condition. It can be specific to events in a certain time, such as intense combat, or rarely can involve complete loss of memory about yourself. It may sometimes involve travel or confused wandering away from your life. An episode of amnesia usually occurs suddenly and may last minutes, hours, or rarely months and years. Have you guys ever seen that movie Split? I'm imagining that's what it is, where he's Patricia, and then Patricia was my favorite, by the way, but he turns into all these people, and he kidnaps the girl at the Philadelphia Zoo. I think he works at the Philadelphia Zoo, and he kidnaps the girl. It's a really wild movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure that's they're going for something like that. It involves an ongoing or episodic sense of detachment or being outside yourself, observing your actions, feelings, and thoughts, and self from a distance, as though watching a movie. Other people and things around you may feel detached or foggy or dreamlike. Time may be slowed or sped up. The world may seem unreal. So, I'm pretty sure at the like, she even said something along the lines of that she never even was in Florida. Like, they asked her something about being in Florida, and she was like, I never even been to Florida. Like, she is something else. Like, really, this woman is just so sorry. My camera keeps going out of focus and making me super bright. All right, so let's talk about Dr. Dorothy Lewis, because she is super interesting and I talk about her a lot. I've brought her up many times. So if you've watched my channel from day one, you've probably heard about her many times. The first time I learned about her, I was searching through crime documentaries on Hulu, something to watch. I was bored, sitting at home, and I found a documentary called Crazy, Not Insane. And it is all about Dr. Dorothy Lewis. I think it originated on HBO. It was like an HBO special. And she's a psychiatrist that studies at Yale University, I'm pretty sure. I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's Yale. And she has always been interested in researching. Hold on, I feel like I need to bring my chair up a little more. The age-old question, why do people kill? And she did a okay. Why do people kill? And during her studies, she met with a bunch of serial killers that allowed her to perform brain scans on them and compare them to normal human brains. And what she found was that their brains were very, very different. And there was a common thread amongst the serial killers and while their brains developed that way. So a lot of these serial killers were abused as children, either physically abused or emotionally humiliated, like, making them stand naked in the corner, like really just dehumanizing, humiliating punishments, things like that. But as a child, or like abandonment, like they were abandoned. Mindhunters? Oh, I watched the document, or not the show that they made about that. The series, yeah, I watched the series, but I'll definitely check out I'll definitely have to read the book. I didn't read the book, but I love a good book. But basically, I think one of the people she interviewed was Ed Gein, I think. But so basically what would happen was these children, it's really sad too, like, because of, being humiliated and stuff like that, their brains weren't able to make normal connections like a regular child's brain was. And it created a lot of gray matter in their brain. And also a lot of their prefrontal cortexes were damaged. Now, the prefrontal cortex part of your brain is the brain that controls impulse decisions and decision making. I mean, let me look it up. Your prefrontal cortex is the front of the frontal lobe of the brain. It affects behavior, personality, and executive function. If it's damaged, it causes changes to how you think and behave. So the function includes controlling your behavior impulses, delaying instant gratification. So some people who get instant gratification from things other people don't get, regulating your emotions, solving problems, making decisions, making long-term goals, balancing short-term rewards with future goals, changing your behavior when situations change, seeing and predicting the consequences of your behavior, being able to consider many streams of information, and being able to focus your attention. So, so in a nutshell, a lot of these people either had a lot of gray matter from being abused, or a TBI that damaged their prefrontal cortex, or one of the serial killers actually had a tumor on their prefrontal cortex. And so basically there was like a reason why all of these people killed and did the way they did, was they had damages to their brain, and she was able to study that and figure that out and say, like, hey, there's a reason for this. They can't help it. There's something wrong with their brain and they can't help it. So she's been called to testify in a lot. Okay, I will text you probably tomorrow, and we'll plan out a show. Thank you for coming. Talk to you later. Yeah, and it's just so crazy to me, because it's like it really answers the age-old question, is like, why do people just snap and do this? So it always makes me wonder when somebody does just that seems fairly normal to everybody. You know what I mean? When you see someone and they seem fairly normal, and then all of a sudden, like Chris Watts, then it's like, maybe he had, something happen to his brain, or, maybe there's something more there that we don't know about, And she's been a defense witness in a lot of cases for an insanity defense. And that documentary is all about her study. So in a nutshell, she is actually the inspiration behind Holden Ford's character in Mindhunter. So just like Buster's mom was saying, Mindhunter, she was the inspiration for Mindhunter. So what are the odds of that? I'll have to text her and tell her that if she's still not on here. But there's a famed FBI profile, John Douglas, and the inspiration behind Holden Ford's character is Dr. Dorothy Lewis. She became famous for her research of murderers. She spent most of her life trying to figure out why people kill. The psychiatrist, who is the main subject of HBO's documentary, Crazy Not Insane, was one of the first to really advocate the concept that murders are created and not born that way. In the documentary, Lewis herself explained she was always fascinated by murder and often pondered why she never had the urge to kill anyone. Still, she never intended for murder research to be her main career objective. Instead, she went to school to become a psychoanalyst, and following graduation, kicked off her career working with children in the 1970s. MMA fighters, a lot of people, for instance, no offense, Antonio Brown, but Antonio Brown had a couple of really bad concussions, and he's kind of like went off the deep end. There's a lot of people who injure their brain, playing sports and stuff like that, and they don't necessarily kill, but they have trouble making this controlling impulsive decisions. You know what I mean? It might not be that far, but they have trouble controlling being abusive and doing crazy things because they have damage to those parts of the brain. She worked with children. However, her fascination with more macabre parts of human psyche prevailed. She would often work with violent juvenile offenders, and her exposure to the physical and sexual abuse they endured inspired her to explore in depth how trauma in childhood could later lead to homicidal violence as an adult. So she initially worked with children, and then she started working with adults and could see, how childhood trauma could lead later to, killing somebody. Gradually, I was gathering clues she detailed in her notes, which are included in the documentary. I was discovering why one person cried in pain while the other lashed out in response to it. She received a small grant to study prisoners in the Bellevue Forensic Ward in New York City. She examined Mark David Chapman, the man who killed John Lennon, and a murderer who cut off his own father's head and thing down there and threw it both out the window. Let's just say, I don't want to say the word, but Lorena Bobbitt style. She also began studying children in Bellevue's psychiatric ward who had tried to kill. She kept finding more and more anecdotal evidence, in her opinion, that those with homicidal tendencies were victims of both trauma and organic brain dysfunction. In 1984, she wrote an article in Psychiatric Journal about the correlation. Diane Sawyer had her on television to interview her about it in CBS This Morning, and Sawyer calling it a pioneer study. Soon after, Lewis got a call from Richard Burr, a defense attorney, who asked her to help with a death row murder case. She found the suspect had a history of abuse and brain damage. Then she began to ask to work on more cases. She soon became a regular expert witness on a number of high-profile murder cases and serial murder cases, including Ted Bundy. She was an expert witness for Ted Bundy. In Crazy Not Insane, Lewis made it clear she believes the death penalty for killers is cruel because she argues many of them are sick, and society shouldn't be killing people who are mentally unwell. She put forth the concept that there is no evil and even questioned definitions of sanity. Lewis thinks that the definition of sanity put forth by the law is too shaky, as shown in the documentary. Yeah, there's definitely some, sadistic people, but, a lot of the times there could be a reason behind that. Like they, maybe have a tumor or had an injury. Like for instance, what's his name? Oh my gosh, the cannibal dude. I did a whole Dahmer. When he was a child, he had surgery and he was kept under anesthesia too long. And they said after that, he was never the same. So it makes me wonder if Dahmer's brain was injured during that surgery, which caused him to become, like a killer. Lewis also studied people who she thinks have or have had dissociative identity disorder. So she studied this particular disease a lot, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. She believed that many killers were not making up having an entity within them that instructed them to kill, including Bundy. Her theories on multiple personalities have been so controversial, and as noted in the documentary, she has often been the subject of ridicule because of these beliefs. Many of her claims have been challenged in court, and she has been criticized for her seeming support of some of the most vicious killers in the world. Now, I'm pretty sure it was Ed Gein. I could be wrong. Who's a really tall guy? The serial killer who was super tall. I think it might be Ed Gein. But in a nutshell, she would interview Ed Gein, and during her interviews, she said he would almost come out of him. He would be the sweetest, nicest guy 1 second, and then he would almost come out of himself and turn into a whole different person for a little bit. and then not have memory of that and go back into his other self. I believe she even has recorded interviews with him where they show it, but he would go back and forth between personalities. And I think that's what made her interested in the multiple personality thing. For example, Barbara Kerwin, a forensic psychologist who also examined murderers, criticized Lewis's research, sample size, and her so-called ability to determine what is unusual brain activity, the New York Times reported in 2001. Kerwin claimed that in her own research, murderers seem to have been abused only 10% of the time, as she put it, about what you'd find in the general population. Serial killer expert and author Peter Vronsky also disagrees with Lewis. He told Oxygen that I'm reading this from an Oxygen article, by the way. I'll actually share the link in case you guys want to check it out, too. Thank you, Butterfly Kisses. He told Oxygen that he criticizes how she testified for the defense during the serial killer Arthur Shawcross 1990 trial in his upcoming book, American Serial Killers, The Epidemic Years, 1950 to 2000. Crazy Not Insane, the documentary about her, shows how Lois believes Shawcross took on a personality named Bessie when he murdered renowned forensic psychiatrist Dr. Park Dietz, who consulted for both the FBI and CIA, claimed under oath during Shawcross trial he felt Lewis cooked Shawcross to play various roles. He told the producers of Crazy Not Insane that he believes multiple personality disorder, generally speaking, is a hoax. He claimed interviews like Lewis use interview styles which allow vulnerable people to believe that they have different personalities within them. They didn't find anything, Gabriel? Edward Kemper, that's it. Thank you, Risk. You're right. It was Kemper. I knew it was an Ed, and I always get Kemper and Ed Gein confused, but you're right. It was Kemper. Where was I? Still, Lewis' research does hold weight. She influenced Supreme Court rulings on capital punishment in 1988 and 2005, the Yale School of Medicine reported in 2007. Oh, I keep having like hair in my eye, sorry. While Dr. Lewis' conclusions were often dismissed by others, including well-known forensic psychiatrist Park Dietz, her videotapes of her death row interviews show meaningful transformations between alters developed in childhood, often as a way to endure, sometimes avenge the pain they have suffered. The film includes snippets of some of her recorded interviews, including one between her and Shawcross, which seemingly shows killers switching back and forth from their supposed alternate personalities. In many cases, their demeanor and even their voice change. Just as important to me, how the tapes reveal Dorothy's skills in interview, empathetic but always probing, curious and never shocked, playful but always serious about unearthing methodically vital details, the documentary's director Alex Gibney said in the director's statement obtained by Oxygen.com. What she discovers is never intended to excuse horrific acts of violence. Rather, as a psychiatric detective, she seeks to explain why killers kill, so we might take steps to stop the killing. Gibney said he was enticed to do a film on Lewis in part after noticing the dichotomy between Lewis's work and her bubbly demeanor, even now at age 82. Yes, it does show the brain scans. She compares them, Lori. It's definitely on HBO. If you have HBO Max, it should be in there. And I watched it on Hulu. I don't know if it's still on Hulu, but I'm telling you, it is fantastic. I was very moved by this documentary. So much so that I've probably told people a million times to watch this documentary since I've had a channel. Like, I bring it up all the time. Like, you guys gotta watch this documentary. It's so good. Just because it's, it's interesting how, maybe there is really a reason and we just, we don't know, because it is confusing, I think, to a lot of people. Like, why do people kill? There's got to, like, you want a reason rather than people are just sick. Like you want there to be a reason. Here's a little bit more. Here's more like on here's some stuff off Wikipedia that I could read. But she is a psychiatrist and an author who has been an expert witness at a number of high-profile cases. She specializes in the study of violent individuals and people with DID. She has worked with death row inmates as well as other prison inmates convicted of crimes of passion and violence, and the director of the DID clinic at Bellevue Hospital associated with New York University in New York City. She is a professor in psychiatry at Yale and New York University and is the author of Guilty by Reason of Insanity, a book she wrote based on research done in collaboration with neurologist Jonathan Pincus. She's a graduate of the Ethical Culture Fieldstone School, Radcliffe College, and Yale University School of Medicine. She has stated in one of her books she originally went to medical school intending to become a psychoanalyst. She was married to Melvin Lewis, a child psychiatrist and professor at Yale who died in 2007. She has 2 children. I'm trying to see if they... All right, here we go. During her research, she concluded that most, if not all, the inmates she worked with had been abused as children or had experienced or witnessed potentially traumatic events, including violence. She found that in most cases, both the accused and the family members have been reluctant to discuss the abuse that happened in the past. In many cases, she concluded that the inmates had blocked out the memories. In some cases, she was able to find testimony to this abuse as well as corroborating evidence. The corroborating evidence often including scars said to be from the abuse, as well as hospital and criminal records potentially related to abuse. In many cases, the hospital records of the abuse were attributed to other causes, often accidents. However, the explanations didn't match the injuries according to Lewis. So not only did she do brain scans and stuff, she went through their whole history and pieced together, to see if they were abused, if it corroborated with what they told her. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't just do a brain scan and just believe what they said. She did all the homework. She also found that the parents of these children often had the same problems as the children and concluded they taught their behavior to the children. She argued they often relied on excessive force to discipline their children and used it inconsistently, and that in many cases, the children who received the strictest discipline became the most violent. In some cases, these children found that if they told other adults about the abuse, which in some cases was very extreme, they found that adults didn't believe them because their stories were too bizarre. However, other experts, such as forensic psychologist Barbara Kerwin, questioned Lewis. Yeah, we talked about that. What brain damage does is it increases emotional lability, impulsiveness, and poor judgment, but most brain damaged people are not violent. In psychosis, even paranoid schizophrenia does not usually create violence. Most people with this disorder are not violent. Probably abuse alone does not create a grotesquely violent individual. However, when you put these together, brain dysfunction, a tendency to paranoia, and early ongoing horrendous abuse and violence, you get a recipe for violence. Lewis has also highlighted the role of extremes of mood such as major depression and mania, or even hypomania, including mood swings between them as found in the bipolar spectrum, previously known as manic depressive psychosis, and dissociative identity states, formerly multiple personality disorder, that Dr. Lewis originally doubted the existence of. She has assessed or testified in the defense of several high-profile cases, including Mark David Chapman. He was the guy who murdered John Lennon. Joel Rifkin, who was an American serial killer who was sentenced to 203 years in prison for the murders of 9 women between 1989 and 1993. It is believed he had up to 17 victims. David Wilson from Louisiana, Marie Moore from New Jersey, Joseph Paul Franklin was an American neo-Nazi and serial killer who engaged in murder sprees spanning the late 70s and early 80s. Ted Bundy, everybody knows who Ted Bundy is. If you don't, he was a serial killer who kidnapped, RAPED, and murdered numerous young women and girls during the 1970s and possibly earlier. After more than a decade of denials, he confessed to up to 30 murders committed in 7 states between 1974 and 79, I think. And then Arthur Shawcross, who was also known as he's the Green River Killer, right? Or Genesee River Killer. I thought that was the Green River Killer, but I could be wrong. The Genesee River Killer was an American serial killer active in Rochester, New York from 1972 to 1989. I'm not sure, Lori. That's the only one I know of. In the Shawcross case, Lewis was the subject of some controversy. The first defense psychiatrist had concluded there was no insanity defense feasible for Shawcross, but Lewis reported diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder and DID, brain damage, psychomotor epilepsy. However, the prosecution took her case apart and appeared that she had obtained some of her interview material from Shawcross by hypnosis, conducted without proper procedures for protecting against leading questions and false memories. In turn, Lewis criticized the defense team for failing to obtain further brain studies to verify diagnoses of epilepsy and brain damage. She questioned the ethics of a prominent neurologist who was sent a brain scan by the defense and who ended up using the brain scan to testify for the prosecution. While Lewis stated that her long-term colleague Pincus found evidence of temporal lobe cyst, frontal lobe scarring, and electroencephalogram spiking, other neurologists found no evidence of abnormal ECG readings or any witness seizure and concluded his neurology was within normal limits. Over the course of the trial, Lewis became the focus of some public ridicule for her rambling style, and afterwards some of the jurors said she had damaged the defense's case. Now, I mean, for sure she's going to get ridiculed because it's very hard to defend somebody who did awful things, you know? So I think a lot of people will have a hard time wanting to believe anything she says because of what we know Letecia did. And I probably will myself because I don't think there was anything wrong with Letecia. I think she faked a lot of the stuff personally. So I'm not going to lie. I'll probably have a hard time listening to her, but I am very interested to hear from her and what she has found in Letecia, I guess. She became the focus of some public ridicule for her rambling style, and afterwards some of the jurors said she damaged the case. She had proposed a conspiracy theory to explain why she may have deliberately undermined, based on the prosecution sharing the same rare name as a former CIA operative, and the possibility that her questioning of Shawcross's Army days might have risked revealing he had been put through MK-Ultra type brainwashing experiments. Lewis was also hired by the defense for the Washington Beltway sniper, John Allen Muhammad, and assessed his mental state. Her report concluded that he had psychotic schizoaffective disorder and had brain dysfunction. Along with the New York Times journalist who reported an interview with her prior to Muhammad's capture, has been criticized by the head of the American Psychiatric Association and National Alliance on Mental Illness for having asserted the man is clearly psychotic and probably manic. Lewis defended her media work and referred to another article that said she was one of the few who have gotten it right. However, for that Newsweek article, she was quoted, "He may be talking nonsense, but that doesn't mean he's delusional." She doesn't believe in the death penalty, like we said. And yeah, so I am super interested to see how this goes with Dorothy and like I said, I'm going to have a hard time with it because I hate Letecia, and hate's a strong word, but I just cannot stand that woman. And I think she's totally faking it. She's admitting at this point that she did it. So it's really hard to feel bad for her at all. And she was very calculated. So I don't know, but I'm excited to see how it goes. So we'll see. And yes, if you want to watch it, I will write crazy. Yeah, I can't. That is the title. If you want to watch it, I highly recommend it. It is an excellent documentary. And yeah, right, K-Braze? Exactly. So check it out for sure. And I will probably be back in like 2 days. It's Tuesday, Thursday, I guess, or we'll do like another 2 days. I'll have to catch up with Valo on Thursday because I didn't go over Valo today because I really wanted to focus on Dorothy and her testimony coming up. So, oh, okay, hold on. Oh, actually, I think I could just do this. I think it shows up if I just do that. Why is it? There we go. There's a link. All right, guys. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you guys like Thursday when I'm back. And I'll talk about Valo then. I guess recap all week Valo, and then we'll go over the 2 days of Letecia too. So I'll make sure I get that in on Thursday. All right, good night, guys. Thanks for coming. See you later. Oh, and I'm sure Dorothy will be probably on this week. If she is, or either this week or next week. So I'll definitely be on the night that she testifies. Well, Lori, I want to think she'll see right through Letecia, but she's the star witness for the defense. So she's already examined her, and she's speaking in defense of Letecia. So she believes Letecia has, hold on, I'll tell you right now. I saw an article about it. But she's already, here it is. The final sanity report for the alleged Colorado child killer, Letecia Stauch, was released in court this week as jury selection continues. According to the latest sanity report provided by Dr. Dorothy Lewis at the defense's request. So Dr. Dorothy Lewis made this report. Said Stauch was in a psychotic state around the time Gannon died. The report arrived around 7 months after the defense requested an independent assessment and over a year after Stauch's previous sanity reports were submitted to the court. So she's saying that from her assessment of Letecia that she has DID. So just message me on there. I can't do it 3 minutes after the stream, but maybe in a little bit. But I can shortly. So just message me in there, and then I will. But yeah, so she's testifying in defense of Letecia, which bothers me so much. All right. See you guys.